I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hello everybody, today is the 29th of November 2017 and of course I'm Roy Potter. This is Roy Potter QA, the Potter Expositor, and a friend of mine said that I should say all this and you'll understand why in a minute. Refresh people's minds about what my background is. I was in the U.S. Army, both reserve and active duty, for a total of 28 years. I left the Army at the rank of a Lieutenant Colonel. I served in military police and military intelligence capacities, and my information on myself there on YouTube explains that. I also spent time as a police officer and also in private security. So that kind of gives you the idea about what I've been doing. Also, I'm going to say a couple things here. I don't want to make anything sensational about it. Those who understand what's happened will know, and I'll just speak in general terms. I have been the subject several times of surveillance, of course, like we all have. And I did have some information on my computer that has to do with an investigation I was conducting, and my computer was hacked and the information was removed. Now that's not a big deal because obviously I have backups and I have what's called dead man's triggers as well. So it really doesn't matter, but what it did do was it confirmed that there are these things going on. I understand other people have had similar problems, and it's just going to happen. The deep state, the intelligence community, they're in a panic mode right now, and we haven't seen intelligence warfare at this level since the Cold War. All right, it's really that bad. The difference being that instead of the Russians or the Soviets being the target of our intelligence war, the intelligence community, the CIA, the FBI, et cetera, the deep state people, Obama, Hillary Clinton, et cetera, are doing this war upon the American people. Instead of going after the Soviets or even the Chinese, they're coming after us. And so all of this is going to happen. I'm sure that a lot of people have had some similar things, and like I said, a couple of years back, not even that long ago, there were incidents, of course, of gang stalking, cyber stalking, all sorts of things. But to have this information taken off my computer, which again is no big deal, because I know that they know and they know that I know the information. And I've already given it to law enforcement personnel, the white hats, and it's very possible that some of the things that we're seeing now is as a result of some of that information, frankly. Okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to bring that up just so that you know. And then we have some other information I think you're going to find very interesting. It's really great, and that is this afternoon. Actually, it may have happened this morning, but at the Bundy trial in Nevada, if you all have been following the Bundy trial from the Bundy standoff in 2014, Ryan Bundy was released about a week ago on pretrial release, and today Cliven and Ammon Bundy were also released on pretrial, before pretrial release. Now, I can't speculate really what the reason for that is. You know, it was done in a courtroom where everything was closed. They kicked the public out and all of that. But even though I'm not supposed to speculate, I'll say this much. The reason why they were being held by the feds all of this time was because the FBI and the DOJ insisted that, number one, they were violent, right? And number two, that they were a flight risk. Those two things were basically why they were keeping them incarcerated, instead of giving them their allowance for bail and to be released, which was all a violation of their rights, because all of this stuff about them being violent was all made up by the Bureau of Land Management, by the FBI, and by the Department of Justice, the district or the U.S. Attorney. So obviously when that information came out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that the BLM had in fact set up sniper positions on the Bundys even before the standoff, and that they had abused the family in many different ways. They also had camera surveillance on their property. It was a lead up to a Waco-style type of situation, and the BLM and the FBI were planning on it, as well as probably the EPA and certainly Harry Reid. So I imagine all of that came out, and then finally they have to admit that they're not violent. They called for help because they were being attacked, basically, and threatened with violence, and so they asked people to come and stand with them. So that certainly isn't the violent personalities that we've been told about. And I've met the Bundys personally, and I can attest to that as well. So there's all of this that's going on with the Bundys. Where is it going to go from here? I don't know. But we know that there's a lot of pressure now with this investigation on Uranium-1. The truth of that is finally coming out, which was what the Hammonds up in Oregon were all about. And the Bundys went up there to help them because of the uranium. The BLM and the EPA fought on behalf of Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, Uranium-1, all that, to take that property so that they could give the uranium and the other minerals and the land itself to foreign investors. At the Bundy Ranch, it was typically basically the same thing. Minerals, the land for Harry Reid, supposedly for a sale to China for solar farms, but there were also some other things we're sure, possibly uranium there as well. I don't know that for sure, but it's very, very likely because that's the kind of area that you would find it. So that's probably another thing that's bearing down on this case, that the truth is actually coming out. And that's a wonderful thing. And so we pray for the Bundys. We pray for those who have stood with them during this entire crisis, and that God will continue to intervene and impress upon these evil people that have done this to the Bundys and to the rest of us, that really they're not going to win this fight in the long run. Okay? So that's that. That's fairly important. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the Q thing, because this is really interesting. You know, I showed you that they put up the Heil Hitler stuff on 4chan the other day, right? Well, now it's gone, the Heil Hitler stuff, and the regular calm before the storm is back. I'm not sure it ever went away, but the other one was preempting it. But at any rate, the point is there's one possibility, and that is that the moderators on 4chan knew that that was bogus and took it down. But I'm not certain that that's really the case. The bottom line of all this that I'm talking about is that, again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, there is an intelligence war going on unlike anything that we've seen since the Cold War, and it's all internal in the United States. It's the bad hats in the government against the white hats. It's the bad hats in government against the American people. It's the bad hats in government against President Donald Trump. Okay, and all of these Antifa and Black Lives Matter and all these people who've been fooled into doing what they're doing because they've been instructed to do this in the school system and in everything that's been going on, media and all of that, and also getting paid to do it as well by the Soros Foundation and by OFA of Obama and those types of things. But we keep seeing these efforts to discredit those who stand by the United States constitutional republic, okay? And so that whole thing on 4chan there was to discredit those who are following this, first of all, designed the Q posts, and then, of course, those who follow it. So what am I saying? Keep your wits about you. You know, don't fall for something just because it looks right. Yeah, you can count on trip codes and passwords and all that, but this is more of a consciousness thing, I guess, on 4chan that Q has put out to keep us talking about it and aware, because awareness brings the spirit up, right? The spirit of liberty. It raises it, rather. The real communication is going between the people that are supporting President Trump and the operators in the field. And we've seen a little bit of that on 4chan, but I don't know that that will continue. At this point, I'm going to suspend most of what I look at on Q for right now. I do know that there's some other people that are checking 8chan out, and also the Q channel on Twitter. But frankly, I think there was enough in all of the posts up through the 24th, and we even saw some possible intrusions in some of those, but they weren't critical, and Q even pointed out that that was happening. But I don't think they were critical enough to really impose on us the idea that we should disregard them. But from here on out, I think we need to be careful. And as I get more information, there are those who are a lot better versed at this than I am. Once they get through it and they do their double checking and all of that, then we can kind of come back and say, okay, well, this is probably what's going on, and you know, you can look at this. Well, actually, you can look at anything you want. We're not going to tell you what to look at and what not to, but just keep your wits about you. Look at the overall objective of what Q's trying to do. He's trying to restore the constitutional republic, get the power back to the people, take the power away from the Intel community, from the deep state, from these foreign banking investments, and all of that have been ruining not just the United States, but the entire world. Keep that in when you're evaluating things, and you'll kind of be headed in the right direction, I think. I think that's really what we've got to look at. Now, along with all this discrediting that this intelligence war is trying to do on the bad hat side, okay, we saw some more today, and that is that CNN came out and basically said that Trump is incompetent, again, the way he's handling the North Korean thing, because, oh my gosh, it's going to start a war. Well, it's funny that they didn't say that about Hillary when she said that, you know, if she tells somebody to push the button, they'd better do it, and that she'll go to war with the Russians or with Iran or anybody else, and that didn't seem to bother CNN or any of the other media. So always remember that they're trying to discredit Trump. The real issue here, I believe, and I've mentioned it and some others have as well, that North Korea is a CIA tool, okay? And that now that Trump is calling that out, he sent, you know, the fleet there, you know, he's told them that they got to knock off this stuff. You know, he's gone after, as we've talked about, the CIA drug labs. He's gone after ISIS, another CIA operation. He's gone after the banking situation for Clinton, you know, the money situation. And that's just going to continue to steamroll. So they're desperate, and they're going to fight back in any way they can if they can make the American people. And I'm not saying North Korea couldn't be a problem, because the CIA, as I've said, these deep state people, these evil people, would rather destroy everything than lose power. And I think we all understand that. And so it's what they're doing now is they're trying to discredit Trump by taking a stand against North Korea, which is another way, in my opinion, in my judgment, of standing against the CIA and the deep state. All of this is starting to show that Trump is really on top of this ball, and he's going to get attacked more and more, just as we are. You know, as individuals, our accounts hacked, and they try to scare you, they try to disturb you, they try to make it so that you don't want to speak out, to buckle underneath the pressure. Don't do that. That's another reason why I'm making this video. I'm telling them, to hell with you guys. You know, if we don't do this, we have our posterity to lose. We have the entire earth to lose. We have our salvation to lose if we don't stand up against you. So all you're doing is proving to us that we're doing the right thing. All right. I think that's all for now. I just wanted to get that much information out. So thank you all for listening. And I'm not sure, of course, when we'll make another video like this. I see that I am making these live transmissions more often because it's easier. There's a lot of editing to do with this type of a situation set up. And plus, it doesn't react as fast. So when something really quick occurs, I'll go to the live stream. But I might get lazy and use that again as well on other things. We'll see. All right. Thank you all so very much. Have a nice evening. And until next time, thank you and good night.